So you wrote a book and you're going to self-publish it, and you know you need an editor because that's what all the advice says, but how the heck do you vet editors and find the right one for you? Today's video gives you some questions to ask before you hire someone. Jodi Brandon here of Jodi Brandon Editorial. I work with solopreneurs, creative entrepreneurs, and bloggers who want to scale their business with a book or ebook. And I'm a professional editor, so you know I think editing is important, right? But how do you figure out who's the best editor for your project? Or how do you find out who's a qualified editor for your project? Today I've got 5 questions for you that you should ask every single editor you're thinking about hiring for your project. Let's start with the first one, editorial background. Is this person an actual editor, or is this a retired English teacher who's looking to make some money during the summertime? The problem with editing is this. There is no formal certification process in the United States for people to say, like, yes, I'm certified by, the Editorial Freelancers Association or the American Copy Editors Society. Any of those organizations that exist, no formal certification programs for editors. Trainings, to be sure, but no certification that says, yes, you can trust this person, hire this person, give this person your money. So you need to find out, is this someone who actually has an editing background? How long have they been editing? What kind of books do they edit? Do they know the Chicago Manual of Style, which is sort of the Bible style guide that we use in the trade publishing world? Number 2, can they give you some references? Now, this can get tricky because sometimes people are not allowed to say, as an editor or a book designer or someone who works behind the scenes, you're not allowed to say the titles of books that you've worked on. So just because I don't have a list of books I've worked on my website doesn't mean I haven't worked on lots of books that are great and have done well and been published and been on a bestseller list, or however you define a great book. But if someone asks me for references, I can certainly point them to some clients that they can talk to, even if it's not about a specific book project, by title. So if someone says to me, Jodi, can you give me the names of, like 3 clients you've worked with in the last year that would be, able to tell me a little bit about working with you? Of course I can. I may not have their books listed on my website, but I can give a potential client the names of people that they can then reach out to and say, hey, tell me about working with Jodi. So be wary of someone who is not willing or able to do that. Number 3, what does the process look like? I've never had a book edited before, so I have no idea what to expect. Good editors are going to walk you through this process. They want it to be collaborative. I want my clients, my author clients, to feel comfortable with every step of the way. So the more they know up front about what's coming and when it's going to happen, the easier it is, right? I mean, it just takes the fear out of it as much as it can. So I outline the whole process. Every editor works differently, so the details of the process look different. So you want to be looking for things like communication. Is this someone who wants to communicate by telephone and you prefer to communicate by email, or vice versa? Is there communication during the project while the editing is going on? So I like to, if there's something that really has me stumped, I will reach out to the author in the middle of an edit. Otherwise, I try and get through an entire pass from start to finish and then go back to the editor with questions and comments and queries and that sort of thing. That's just the way I like to work. So you have to figure out, talk to the person about the process, what it's like, what it looks like, and all of that, and then get an idea, get a feel for if that seems like your working style meshes with his or her working style. That sort of dovetails into number 4, which is, how long is it going to take? And the simple answer here is it really just depends. And I wish that there was a black and white. It takes 2 weeks if your book is 30,000 words. It takes 8 weeks if your book is 80,000 words. But it just really depends. It depends on what kind of editing you're looking for. And I have a video and a couple of blog posts about that I can link below if you want to check those out about the different types of editing. So it depends on what type of editing you're looking for. It also really depends on how clean your manuscript is. So you don't want to write a first draft and then pay an editor. That's a waste of your money. You want to have revised that manuscript. You want to have incorporated feedback in that manuscript, beta feedback, which I can link information below about that as well. And you want to do some self-editing. So, you know, the cleaner you can make that manuscript, each time you go through it, you will see fewer and fewer, hopefully, errors, right? Whether those be like typos or those be, you know, continuity questions or flow questions or clarity questions, any questions about the manuscript, there should be fewer and fewer each time you go through the manuscript as a whole. So once you think you've gotten as clean as possible, then you go to an editor. And the reason for that is simple. No matter how an editor structures his or her fees, whether it's by word, by page, by hour, it all boils down to time, how long the editor is going to be spending working through your manuscript. The more errors and mistakes and things like that there are to correct, the longer it takes and the more you're going to pay. So especially if budget is an issue, you know, talk to that old retired, not old as in age, but old as in former, retired English teacher. Maybe she's someone who could go through the manuscript before you send it to a professional editor and help you with sort of some of those cleanup things. Or maybe that's someone more, you know, for the proofreading stage, which is sort of the last look before a book gets printed. So it's really, I mean, it can take anywhere from a couple of weeks to a couple of months, depending on how long your manuscript is and how clean it is. And also what your editor's schedule is. I mean, you're probably not going to find a really good editor tomorrow to start a book next week. They book out far in advance, you know, just like web designers do, just like book designers do, just like, you know, business coaches do, all of those things. All of those service providers book out far in advance. So you want to be thinking ahead, but you want to be mindful that there's really no set schedule with a book editing project. It's really going to be individual to your manuscript. And 5, the biggie. I know this is the one everybody's waiting for. What's it going to cost me, right? Again, it's going to depend on how clean your manuscript is. If your manuscript is riddled with typos, then that's probably going to require a whole nother pass, which means the editor going through from start to finish and just cleaning up those things before she even starts looking at, you know, the substance of the book. So it's going to depend on what level of editing you're looking for, developmental, copy editing, proofreading. It's going to depend on how clean the manuscript is. A lot of editors offer rush fees, which obviously will cost you more, but you'll get the project done sooner. So that's another factor to consider in. So it really, again, just depends. And I also, again, wish that I could give you a black and white, you know, if your book is looking for, if your book is 40,000 words, it's going to take 4 weeks and it's going to cost you $800. It's just not that simple. One thing to sort of a bonus tip here, not a question, but a bonus tip is see if your editor, potential editor, asks to see part of the manuscript. I will not quote a manuscript until I've seen at least part of it. And I mean a couple of chapters, not, you know, a couple of pages. Because you can get a pretty good sense as an editor of how clean the manuscript is based on that sample. And it's easier then to give a, you know, a solid proposal. You know, I can edit this manuscript for X cents per word, or I can edit this manuscript for X dollars per hour, and it's going to take me 4 weeks. But there's really no way to tell without seeing the actual manuscript how clean it is and how long it's going to take you. So it's hard to put together a proposal. So don't be surprised if a potential editor asks to see part of the manuscript. They're not trying to, you know, steal an idea or anything like that. They just want to get an idea of your writing style and how clean the manuscript is. If you have other questions, let me know. We could do a part 2 of quick questions to ask a potential editor. I would love to do that. I would love to hear your questions. Tell me below in the comments. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I will talk to you soon.